which makes the job of a timekeeper much more difficult than I'm used to. Manjula, please tell us about your experience.
Sure. Thank you, Patrick. I was going to do a presentation, but there was a technical glitch, so I'm going to do it without the presentation now. I will share a couple of my stories, first by giving a brief background of myself. I came to US. I'm Manjula Disanaika, the founder and the president of Educate Lanka Foundation. I'm currently a graduate student at the Fletcher School at Tufts University, and I had 5 years of corporate finance background prior to that. I came to US at the age of 19 in 2001. And while I was a senior at University of Maryland, the tsunami struck Sri Lanka and the rest of the South Asian countries. At that time, I was living with my roommate, and we decided we need to do something. And rather than going to house to collect funds, we thought we'll do fundraising. We'll engage the community and give an opportunity for the community to participate and raise funds. So we had a project in Sri Lanka that we found to build a village, rebuild a village that was destroyed by the tsunami. And for that, we created different community events and raised $20,000 within 6 months and contributed to the project. And that was my first real experience of engaging and giving back to my country as a member of the diaspora at the age of 23. That story really inspired me and really gave me the experience and the passion of giving back to my mother country where I grew up. I had the education and before I came here for my higher education. Then back in 2006, after I started working, I got a call from my mother from Sri Lanka, who's a retired teacher at that time, explaining a story about this student who got accepted to higher education university in Sri Lanka, but couldn't afford $100 to accept the offer and really take advantage of the opportunity. Mind you, in Sri Lanka, not every student gets this opportunity. Only the cream of the crop, top 5 to 10%, who really do well in the public exams, get this opportunity of achieving higher education through a public university. So here's this student, Manori, who went through a really difficult life as a student, but overcame all the challenges, who walked about 5 miles back and forth every day to school, who the mother gave up her meals to feed the child, and mother was, they found trees and fruits to create watercolors for Manori, and overcame all those challenges, and she found this last hurdle of achieving her higher education without just $100. So my mother asked whether we can chip in some money and send back to give this opportunity for Manori. We said, why not? We'll be happy to do that, and I collected $10 to $20 from my roommates, and we just sent it as a one-time donation. Then we wondered how many other Manoris are there in Sri Lanka who struggle day-to-day basis with lack of access to these basic educational needs, such as transportation, uniforms, shoes, food, boarding expenses, that prevent them from having access to education. Education, the tuition in Sri Lanka in public schools is free. But because of these additional expenses, it becomes a burden on the family and becomes an opportunity cost for the parents. So there's a 66% dropout rate from 5th grade through 12th grade in Sri Lanka. And currently there are 200,000 students get dropped out annually in Sri Lanka. There are 800,000 students just in Sri Lanka who live below the poverty line. So we saw this big problem and that need to be addressed. And we wondered, just like we supported with just $10 and $20, which is cost of a couple of cups of Starbucks, how many other diaspora like us who are living in the developed countries who can easily afford $10 a month or $20 a month, who's earning at least $50,000 a year, can contribute? We found out there are 600,000 Sri Lankan expatriates living in developed countries, not just in the US, but in Australia, in England, the European Union, Canada, and all the other developed countries, who could easily help these students, the 800,000 or whatever the number is, who are struggling to achieve this basic education. So then we thought, how do we connect these diaspora all over the world with the students back home? So then we brainstormed for 6, 7, 8 months. We tried different models, and then we thought we needed to develop a website and create an online platform to connect these people. So one of my roommates happened to be an IT guy, and he took the responsibility of developing a website. So we came up with this idea of Educate Lanka Foundation. I'll explain briefly how the model works. So in order to connect the students and the diaspora, we first identify students in Sri Lanka who are underprivileged but have potential for higher education. In order to do that, we rely on liaison officers, such as my mother, who are retired, or community leaders who know these students in their community, who struggle day-to-day basis, and who have the potential of achieving higher education. So these liaisons find the students for us. Or if the students directly apply to us, we would send them through the liaisons. And we have a basic application process where we get the applications, a picture of the student, a handwritten application letter explaining the story, what are the hardships of these students. And we put them on our website with a monthly scholarship amount, which ranges from $10 a month to $25 a month. And these students range from 5th grade through university. So it could be at any age level. So once we put them on the website, anyone, not just the diaspora, but you and I, anyone in the world who have access to internet can easily sponsor a student and change the life of a student, basically. These scholarships are not just one-time scholarships. We try to, through our model, we try to create a long-term sustainable relationship between the sponsor and the student. So the student gets access to education throughout their educational life cycle. In order to do that, we provide extensive feedback to the sponsor from the students every 3 months, explaining how they spend the money for what expenses, and a receipt of receiving the money, and a thank you letter, and the report and the grade cards back to the sponsor. So the sponsor knows how exactly the student is progressing, and if the sponsor wants to visit and help even more, we arrange that as well. In addition to the sponsorship model, we also do fundraising to support, to have a reserve fund to support additional students in our portfolio, and also to sponsor the students who don't have individual sponsors. So far, over the last 4 years, we are sponsoring over 220 students all across Sri Lanka within 16 out of the 24 districts. But we believe this is just the beginning. We have identified an expansion plan and other ways of approaching this problem in a more holistic way. So we're looking at a corporate sponsorship model where we develop educational infrastructure such as computer labs to give access to computers and internet for our students, and also to engage this diaspora, get their knowledge and other experience, and share them with the students through our website, through an online platform. Not just monetary, but sharing the knowledge and their experience. So we are looking at developing educational computer labs and infrastructure, other facilities, so our students have access to basic computers and internet. And in addition, this problem does not just belong to Sri Lanka. It belongs to many other developing countries. So I've identified one of my classmates currently from Bangladesh, and we are looking at a pilot project that we can easily replicate our online model in Bangladesh next year. So we've come a long way, and 220 students, and we believe education, as everyone else in this panel would agree, of one person goes a long way, and it has a ripple effect. It not only empowers that person, but the family, the community, the village, and the entire nation. So with our projections, we are expecting to sponsor about 2,500 students by 2015. And hopefully, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Manjula. Now, how much time do we have here? What? Till when? Till 2 o'clock? So we have quite a bit of time for comments, for discussion, to have a conversation. We've heard terrific stories, and they're diverse stories from different parts of the world. Manjula.
Sure. I'll take a little bit on that. Not so bright students. When we identify students for our program, we identify them all. We looked at their grades, but we don't reject anyone. It just depends on the grades. But what we expect is, with our scholarship, they have access to go to private tuition or have that extra stationery that they want to afford. They need to progress. We give that opportunity for them to have access. So if they continue to progress, that's what we expect of the students. So they all start at different levels, and we expect with the opportunity and the access they have, they would continue to progress and go through their higher education.
Thank you, Manjula. Now, yes. I'm going to give. We only have 2 minutes left. I'm going to suggest that you answer the question that was directed to you. After the session that you get with. All right. By popular demand, please.
Okay, it's a great question, and currently we are a voluntary organization, and we are based in Washington, D.C. We have about over 60 active volunteers involved in Educate Lanka. We've tapped most of our sponsors from this community itself. So we believe that expanding this volunteer chapter model into other states and into other countries where most of the Sri Lankan diaspora is concentrated, we can tap into those markets. So that's the way we are identified going forward to approach the diaspora. In addition, the use of social media is a great tool, and it has worked really well for us. We have a Facebook page, we have Twitter, YouTube, and everything. That really helps us and enable us to tap into the diaspora that we don't engage day-to-day basis on a face-to-face basis. So those are the two main strategies that we use.
Great, thanks. I noticed that the youngest member of the panel is the one that has spoken the most about the use of social media and the successful use of social media, and I don't think that is by chance. Ashraf.